it takes typically days to prepare these different narrative reports, and now AI can do it in just a matter of seconds, which is really exciting because now it frees up managers and leaders to be able to focus on really much more complex and much more interesting problems.
Let's hear from the experts about how artificial intelligence is transforming the world of business. I'm Katie Gaertner, and this is Unsupervised. Hey, Business Badgers. Today I'm sitting with Ewelina Forker, an accounting professor here at the Wisconsin School of Business. Ewelina earned her PhD from Emory in accounting, and her research looks at the design of effective management control systems in joint human-machine decision-making, particularly in the context of organizational forecasting and planning. So, Ewelina, thank you for joining us. Let's talk about AI and accounting.
Let's do it.
Okay. So first of all, you need to lay some groundwork for us. What even is accounting, and why is it a major at the business school?
Sure. So typically people think, or at least describe accounting as the language of business. And it really deserves kind of that recognition because accounting is all about measurement, reporting, and analyzing of financial information. And so at its core, accounting really is about understanding and being able to communicate the financial health of an organization. So we're talking about small startups, global corporations, or even nonprofit. It really applies across all of those domains. The degree itself really equips students with a lot of versatile skills. Things like critical thinking, problem solving, data analysis, all of which are really important in today's kind of data-driven world.
Sure.
And the career opportunities are really vast. So I think probably a lot of students are aware that accountants can become certified public accountants or CPAs, but we also have a number of accountants that go into consulting, that go into forensic accounting, and eventually become CFOs.
Oh, wow. A lot of opportunities, it sounds like, from accounting. Cool. All right. So now that we know what it is, how is AI being used in accounting?
So this is really exciting. So AI is essentially transforming this profession that has been around for so long, that has kind of been due for change, and it's doing it in a lot of dimensions. So first of all, it's automating a lot of these repetitive tasks that most people kind of found boring to begin with. And so it's freeing up resources by automating these repetitive tasks so that accountants can focus more on the analysis and getting those deeper insights. It's also improving the accuracy of the information, the financial information that we're using for a lot of decisions within our global economy. And so in terms of some kind of like practical applications, in terms of the automation of like data entry, there are tools that are now, I think it's called optical character recognition. And so instead of having people manually go through different documents and invoices and things like that, it's able to do all of that manual work and extract the really important information there. I know that the FBI uses really sophisticated machine algorithms to be able to look at the patterns in all of these different financial transactions and be able to notice some kind of suspicious patterns that might be indicative of fraud. And so it's just so neat, right? You can be kind of a detective in some of these white-collar crimes that have a really big impact on their victims. And so it's just a really neat opportunity there. And then, of course, in the area that I research, there's a lot of companies that are using AI to improve their forecasting processes.
Okay. And by forecasting, do you mean like forecasting revenues or forecasting demand? What are people forecasting?
Absolutely. So companies do a lot of different type of forecasting. So they have forecasts externally, talking about what their earnings projections are going to be. They have a lot of internal forecasting. So that's revenues, but also earnings as well, to be able to help with resource allocation issues, to be able to budget, to be able to know where they should be putting human capital and what projects they should be investing in. And so the forecasting really spans a great deal of contexts.
Oh, very cool. All right, so what are some of the most exciting transformative AI developments that you've observed in accounting that you're excited about?
So I'm really excited. Two things. So the use of natural language processing is really taking off. And so information no longer has to be restricted, or data analysis no longer has to be restricted to numerical information, right? So now we can use words and narratives and be able to analyze that and be able to triangulate that with the financials as well. And so AI tools can analyze contracts, legal documents, emails, really any of this kind of unstructured data to be able to pair that with the financial information to improve decision making. And then we're also seeing a growing number of companies use generative AI. And so we've got this evidence. They're not really forthcoming with it, but we've got a lot of researchers that are kind of being really digging in and finding evidence of this, that they're using it to create these narrative reports, right? So their annual reports are now being at least partly or in a large part driven by generative AI. So think about turning these really complex financial statements with all of these numbers and turning it into, a couple of page summary, an executive summary of what the business has been through and what the kind of next steps are. And so it takes typically days to prepare these different narrative reports, and now AI can do it in just a matter of seconds, which is really exciting because now it frees up managers and leaders to be able to focus on really much more complex and much more interesting problems.
All right, so can you share with us some examples of how AI is changing the way companies in accounting compete and how they're evolving their traditional business models in this new landscape?
So I've had the opportunity as part of my research into organizational forecasting to partner with a number of organizations that are really kind of leading the way in this space and have really embraced the use of AI. And so a kind of a key theme from these different research collaborations is that just about anything can be data for data-driven decision-making nowadays, which is super, super exciting. And so I worked with one auto parts retailer, and they feed just an immense volume and variety of data into this really sophisticated predictive analytics model that they're able to then forecast real-time demand of their customers at the zip code level.
Wow.
So super granular information that's really helping them make sure that they've got the right products at the right stores at the right time, exactly when their customers need it. And they're doing things, these types of predictive analytics models. It's not just, having really kind of granular data about like the number of customers in a zip code. They have real-time climate information. They are web scraping Facebook customer group sites to be able to get at customer sentiment and using that sentiment to feed into the predictive analytics model. So it's just really, really fascinating and really kind of exciting time for that company. And then another company that I had the opportunity with in terms of a research collaboration, they have started looking at how they can utilize their dark data. So dark data are the information assets that companies collect and pay to store, but haven't typically used for data-driven decision making. So usually this information is collected for kind of like compliance purposes, right? So there's some sort of regulatory requirement that they keep it. And so these are things like emails and Teams chats and Zoom transcripts, right?
Okay.
And so there's some research that shows that about 75 to 90% of the data that companies store is actually this dark, unstructured data.
Oh, wow.
And so it's just sitting there potentially to be used for analysis. And so in this partnership with the large medical technology company, they wanted to see if they could leverage that data to be able to improve their forecasting process. And so I worked with them to be able to use some really sophisticated large language models to be able to extract useful information from employee communications, right? So employees are, talking to customers and they're extracting all kinds of important information, but there's millions and millions of messages that are going across. What information is relevant? What's important? How do we get it to the highest levels of the organization to be able to improve this forecasting process? And so this research collaboration and the use of these large language models helped us identify areas where really important information was kind of getting trapped in the system, and to be able to identify ways to be able to get that information where it needs to be.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. So it's interesting because I think typically when we think about large language models, we think of generative AI, like the large language model is writing language.
Yes.
But it sounds like this company is using large language models to read and consume data.
That's right. So it's consuming the data and it's pulling out features and all kinds of features, right? So not just like the length of the messages, but it's talking about the sentiment, the uncertainty of the information, if people are using qualifying words, if they're hesitating with their language, or if they're really confident about the words. All of these different features can be predictive of future performance for the company. And so they're utilizing that information in a much more kind of systematic way.
Wow. That is so cool. Yeah. All right. So now that we understand a little bit about how the industry is transforming and how it's responding to AI, how are job roles changing for accountants in AI? And what skills do you think our rising accountants at the business school need to develop to be competitive in this new market?
Yeah, definitely. Because of these big changes, when we think about measurement, reporting, and analysis, it's really AI is transforming that measurement and reporting piece. And so it's making it much more critical for students to be prepared to jump into that analysis piece. And so data analysis for sure is an important skill that accountants will need to bring to the table. And so it's all about understanding the AI outputs, understanding what the sources of the data are so that they can translate those AI outputs into something actionable and reasonable for the company. And so related to that, in addition to kind of data analysis, there has to be an increase in this kind of technical proficiency. So accountants really need to be able to be familiar with different AI tools. They need to be familiar with ERP systems within organizations, and then familiar with some of the most common kind of analytics platforms that companies use. So thinking about Power BI or Tableau, those are really important so that students, when they graduate, can kind of hit the ground running. And so related to both of these, then, critical thinking, which has always been an important part of accounting, but is becoming increasingly more important even earlier on in their accounting careers. And so AI can provide the insights for sure, but accountants need to be able to evaluate and apply them appropriately. Because despite, I'm a big proponent of embracing and using AI, but it can be spectacularly wrong still. In addition, AI now and all of the big data sources that we have, we are risking inundating people with too much information. And so this critical thinking skill that students and accountants in particular really need to demonstrate is understanding what is accurate information and what is relevant information. And so that really does require a more sophisticated level of thinking. And I would say the fourth skill that is probably more important now than it's ever been from an accounting perspective is communication skills. I think the accounting profession has kind of an unfair stereotype of kind of the bean counters that just want to kind of mess with the spreadsheets. But that need for that is going away because that's all being done by AI. Now what accountants need to do is be able to communicate the why behind the numbers. And so we need to increase those communication skills to be able to do that confidently and effectively.
Oh, okay, great advice. Yeah. All right, we're going to wrap up with a fun question. Okay. If you could offload one task or one responsibility to AI or robotics that you would never have to do again, what bot would you invent?
Okay. What I thought about, what I would use robotics for, is to help me learn to do something new faster. So I'm still doing it, but it's helping me learn. And so I'll give you an example of this. So yes. I love to cook. But I'm really slow and inefficient in the kitchen, and I don't have this natural intuition of what foods and flavors kind of go together. In Ratatouille, right? Yes. So there is a rat that has all of the skills necessary, and he essentially helps this human chef by kind of puppeteering him around the kitchen.
He pulls his hair, right?
Yeah, he pulls his hair to be able to make him do all the movements. So if I could have my own Remy, who could scan all the available ingredients in my kitchen and then help me do things quickly, then I could learn how to be a better cook, but I still have the satisfaction of doing it myself. Yeah.
So you would have the AI take on a coaching role.
Yes.
Where it would like enhance your abilities by teaching you, not doing it for you.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So I thought AI assisted learning by doing is what it would be.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please do it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. One of our students will come up with it. Thank you so much. I've learned so much about accounting and AI from you today, and I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me and chat and talk to my students about it. So thank you, Ewelina.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. It was fun.
Unsupervised is brought to you by the Wisconsin School of Business. It's written and hosted by Katie Gaertner, with sound editing and production by Derek Schneider and Billy Kardaj.